Hello friends, welcome to Total Recap. Today we are going to explain a movie named Khuda haafiz, which has two meanings, may God be your guardian or goodbye. Movie released in 2020, so sit with some popcorns, relax and enjoy this thriller/action movie. The movie starts in March 2008 in the Sultanate of Oman, where Deputy Counsel of Affairs Ik Mishra from Indian Embassy reach Nora's Sabah Police Headquarters. Here, the Assistant Commissioner informs him that a rebel from India has entered their sultanate and has killed several people without any apparent reason. Along with this, the Assistant Commissioner gives Ik Mishra 1.5 hours to prove his innocence, or else they will be sentenced to death as a terrorist. Upon hearing this, Deputy Counsel Ik Mishra goes to the Indian man whom the government of Oman considered a terrorist, whose name is Samir Chaudhary. Afterward, Ik Mishra tells Samir that he is from the Indian Embassy and he will help him to the best of his ability. However, in exchange, he asks Samir to tell the whole truth about why he came to Oman and why he killed so many people. After that, the story goes into a flashback where in October 2007, Samir comes to Lucknow with his family to see Nargis. Here, Samir and his parents learn that Nargis' parents have had an intercaste marriage. Nargis' father was Hindu and her mother Nagma was Muslim, so both religions were equally respected in their home. Afterward, when Nargis appears in front of Samir for the first time, he falls in love with her at first sight. Then, Samir and Nargis sit together and talk. Eventually, Nargis also starts to like Samir a lot. They spend a lot of time together for many days. To the extent that where Nargis was working, Samir talked to the manager there and got, "Will you marry me, Nargis?" written on all the computer screens as wallpapers. Although this surprise made Nargis feel quite awkward, but she was also very happy with it. After this, preparations for their wedding are made, and within 2 months, they get married. But as we all know, in 2008, the whole world was struggling with the Great Recession. During this time, many people were being laid off from their jobs, which had become a common occurrence. In the midst of this, many businesses also suffered losses. Due to this, Samir also had to close his shop because he was a software engineer, and the company that was taking services from him also refused to work with Samir due to the recession. Along with this, the office where Nargis worked also fired her 16 employees, which distressed Nargis a lot. But Samir explains to her what she can do about it, as this problem is happening all over the world. Now 3 months pass. Then one day Samir receives news that Oman country needs employees, so Nargis also fills out papers for Oman with Samir. However, Samir wasn't really inclined to take Nargis with him to another country, but considering the financial situation at home, Nargis tells Samir that it would be better if they both worked together. So, they both contact an agent named Nadeem. On the other hand, Samir's father was also not happy about sending his son and daughter-in-law to another country. So, he tells Samir to use his savings instead of going to Oman. But Samir had kept these savings for an emergency, so he denies his father's suggestion and tells him that Nargis and he will save some money and return to India soon. A few days later, Agent Nadeem visits Samir's house and informs them that since they have jobs in different companies, Nargis will have to leave for Oman 5 days before Samir. Upon hearing this, Samir does not agree and tells Nadeem that they both will leave together after 5 days, as Nargis has never been alone outside Lucknow before. However, Nadeem explains that due to the companies being different, they may not get flights on the same day. Along with this, he tells Samir that if they want to go together, they will have to wait for a month. Upon hearing this, Nargis says, "I'll go first, and then Samir will come later." And she convinces Samir as well. The next day, when Samir and his family come to drop Nargis at the airport, Samir tells Nargis that as soon as she lands in Oman, she should call him. They also notice that Agent Nadeem was sending some other girls along with Nargis. But then, 2 days pass and until now, neither a call nor a message has come from Nargis. But then one day, Samir receives a call from Nargis. She was quite anxious and it seemed like someone was misbehaving with her. Besides this, Nargis, while crying, says, "Samir, I want to come back to India. This is not the place where I applied for a job. I'm being treated very badly here." Additionally, before Nargis could say anything else, a man picked up the phone and disconnected the call. Samir tries calling back on the same number, but it starts going to not reachable. Furthermore, Samir also tries to call the company where Nargis applied for the job, but that number is also out of service. Seeing the tension on Samir's face, his mother asks what happened, but without speaking to his mother, Samir goes straight to Agent Nadeem with the police. After this, Samir asks Agent Nadeem who Nargis was handed over to. In response, Nadeem tells Samir that he just found out that the man who was coming to pick up Nargis never actually received her. However, he assures Samir that he and his Oman agent will make every effort to find Nargis. But Samir is worried that Nargis is alone in another country and he has no idea where she is. So, in anger, he tells agent that he must sit on the next flight to Oman, and also takes the mobile number and address of his Oman agent from him. There, a police officer advises Samir that he should first file a complaint at the local police station, and if things don't work out, then seek help from the Indian embassy. After this, Samir takes some Indian currency with him and heads to Noman. As soon as he steps out of the airport, he meets a taxi driver named Usman, who is fortunate enough to speak both Arabic and Hindi along with his native language. Samir needed a Nomani SIM card, so Usman takes him to a general store. Here, Samir first exchanges Indian currency, and then when Samir takes a local SIM and calls the numbers Agent Nadeem gave him, all those numbers are not reachable. But Samir gets even more frustrated when he learns from Usman that the address given by Agent Nadeem is completely wrong. As a result, he becomes quite tense and then tells about his all problem to the taxi driver Usman. After that, Usman takes Samir to the police station to file a missing person report. However, the police tell Samir that they cannot help him in his case, only the Indian embassy can help him because this is an international case. Although, there Samir thinks about having Agent Nadeem's statement verified with the police officers as evidence. But Samir learns from his father that Nadeem has disappeared, leaving his shop behind. In the next scene, we see that Mr. Usman takes Samir to the Indian embassy, and while leaving, he tells Samir, "I will pray for you in the mosque that you will be reunited with your wife soon. If you need anything, just give me a call." After this, Samir meets a woman named Miss Sonia, who works at the Indian embassy. However, he feels disappointed even there because Deputy Counsel I.K. Mishra was due to arrive 2 days later. At this point, Samir had completely lost hope, but Usman assured him that God would help him. Just then, Usman receives a call from his wife, asking him to come back home in the morning. Seeing Samir holding a mobile phone in Usman's hand, an idea strikes him. He then asks Usman about the company associated with the number from which Nargis had called Samir. That's when Samir finds out that the company's name is Noman Tel, and they have a showroom nearby. So, as soon as morning comes, Samir heads to the Noman Tel showroom where he obtains the details of that number and the name under which the SIM was registered. The man's name was Parvez al-Sharafi, and his house was located in Baith, a safe city where Usman's family used to live. But when Samir arrives at Parvez Sharafi's address, he finds out that he had shifted to another place just a week ago after leaving his house. Hearing this, Samir becomes quite disappointed. After this, Samir goes to Usman, where Usman invites his friend to his house and extracts details about Parvez Sharafi from him. This reveals to both of them that Parvez Sharafi is involved in the flesh trade. Upon hearing this, Samir is taken aback and feels very wronged. Therefore, Samir plans to go to the famous red light area with Usman. In the first red light area, they don't see Nargis, but when they go to the second red light area, Samir finally gets a photo of Nargis and stages a drama, pretending he wants to go to a private space with her. But in reality, he wants to take Nargis away from there. However, he finds out that Nargis is occupied with another customer, which infuriates him. Nevertheless, Samir remains calm for a while. Then, a boy brings Nargis in front of Samir, where we see that Nargis had been given an overdose of drugs and had also been beaten. Upon seeing this, Samir tells the broker there that he wants to take this girl with him. But that pimp said that Samir can spend as much time here as he wants, but they don't let any girl go out of their red light area. Amidst all this, Nargis looks at Samir carefully and then she remembers that he is her husband. So, she starts calling Samir's name. However, seeing this, the pimp sitting there realizes that they both know each other. So, they try to attack Samir, but instead, Samir smashes his face with a baseball bat. However, somehow the pimp regains consciousness and calls all his other men to catch Samir. Now, no husband can leave his wife in the hands of these monsters like this, and here, Samir fights fiercely with all these men. But in the end, they let go of Nargis' hand from Samir, after which Samir's furious form emerges. He now had a knife in his hand, but still, he kept fighting with them. Although he had knocked down many goons, but when the gangsters' crowd grew, Usman came here and helped Samir. He told him that it would be appropriate for us to leave from here at this time, because going from here, we will bring the police to this place and rescue Nargis. But the henchman did not leave Samir and Usman's trail, and in the meantime, when a child's trolley came in front of Usman's car, his car collided with another car. This caused the police to catch Samir, and thus the story returns to the present time again, where Mr. Mishra had taken Samir's entire statement, but considering the matter serious, the Assistant Commissioner of Police Headquarters called his special police agent, whose name was Faiz Abu Malik. But Faiz starts to doubt Samir instead and thinks of him as an Indian raw agent. Actually, Faiz was feeling this way because the person Nargis had called Samir was dead, and when Samir claimed Nargis to be alive, the police raided there, but there were some girls in that building who were working on sewing clothes. Because of this, Samir fell into Faiz's suspicion, but then another officer comes to Faiz and shows him a photo captured by some CCTV cameras, proving that Samir was telling the truth. After this, Faiz takes Samir to a deserted place with some other prisoners. Samir starts to feel that his encounter is imminent. However, here after Faiz prays with the other prisoners, he takes Samir to Commissioner Kaze. In fact, Officer Faiz had decided to solve this case. The entire scenario is presented front of Commissioner Kaze, and then Commissioner Kaze instructs Faiz along with Officer Tamina to lead this mission. Then, Tamina and Faiz take Samir to the airport security control room, where they check the CCTV footage of the entire airport on the day Nargis' flight landed in Noman. They see that a bald man took Nargis and the girls who arrived with her in Noman in his van. However, the face of that bald man doesn't appear captured in any CCTV camera, as if he already knew the position of all the cameras beforehand. But still, Faiz and his team traced the van's number and found out that the van was rented on that day. The person who rented the van is named Itzhak Regini, and he is from Algeria, along with being a successful international modeling coordinator. So, Faiz now stated that if the police come to their location and Regini is not there, their entire gang will be on high alert. Afterward, the scene shifts, and we are shown Regini, who receives a call from his contact in the Safe City gang. The pimp tells Regini the whole story. Just then, Regini gets a call on his other phone from a private number, telling him, the police know everything, so it would be better for us to burn that Indian girl alive. This way, the case will end right here. That night, Tamina takes Faiz and Samir to a place where a girl's dead body was completely burnt. Samir couldn't believe it was Nargis' body, but when he sees the locket she used to wear around her neck, his legs give way beneath him. Here, Samir is completely shattered, but Nargis is buried with dignity. This scene was highly emotional. After this, Faiz arrives at the airport to drop off Samir and providing him compensation from the government, as Faiz assures him that the Sultanate of Noman will ensure his justice. On the other hand, Tamina receives the forensic report of Nargis' dead body. However, Tamina is quite surprised upon reading the report, as it states that the body she found was not Nargis, but belonged to another girl. This leaves Tamina bewildered, and she wants Samir to stay at the airport. As a result, she reaches the airport quickly since neither Samir nor Faiz were answering their phones. But upon arriving, Tamina learns that Samir hadn't taken the flight to India. Seeing Tamina and Faiz at the airport, Samir changes his appearance and leaves the airport. This means that he had indeed entered Noman again. Afterward, he discards his SIM card on the street. In reality, Samir seeks revenge for Nargis' death, as he believed she was dead. When Commander Kaze learns that Nargis is still alive, he becomes furious with Tamina and Faiz. On the other side, Samir makes an effort to reach Regini. Here, Samir arrives at Regini's modeling website and uploads a photo of a fake girl, messaging her that she is a model and has come to Noman for a few days to wander, and she doesn't know anyone here, so she wants to meet Regini. After sending a message to Regini, Samir also buys a gun for a difficult time. In the midst of this, Regini replies to Samir's message and invites him to meet in her private space in a city named Sharm el-Sheikh. After that, to get out of it, Samir starts preparing with Usman to go to Sharm el-Sheikh. But there, he sees Faiz and Tamina's car. After that, he leaves with Usman, calling him khuda haafiz, and sets off alone on his next journey. On the other hand, Usman learns from Tamina that Nargis is still alive. But now, Samir only wanted revenge, so he reaches the city as told by Regini, takes a hotel there, wears a burqa, and transforms into a woman. After this, Samir takes a cab and arrives at Regini's location. As soon as Regini lifts her burqa, Samir put a gun on Regini's head. However, Samir's bad luck leads to Samir's gun falling down, and then Regini severely beats Samir. But then, Samir sees a cylinder nearby and hits Regini on the head with it, rendering him unconscious. When he regains consciousness, Samir shows him a photo of Nargis and says, "Now, do you recognize who I am?" After this, he pours petrol on Regini and is about to set him on fire when Regini tells him that his wife is alive. Meanwhile, during this conversation, Faiz and Tamina arrive with Usman. On the other hand, inside the house, Regini informs Samir, "You had found your wife, so to stop you we burned the body of another girl so that you could return to India." Still, Samir was not convinced, so Regini tells him that Nargis is in the parking lot, and if he delays too much, she will be transported to my boss through a ship to another country and sold to a wealthy businessman. In the meantime, Faiz and Tamina also enter the house, and they tell Samir that Nargis is still alive, and then Faiz grabs his gun. But here, Regini says, "Thank God you came here, Faiz, otherwise this Indian would have killed me." After this, Faiz fires a shot at Tamina. Following this, Samir escapes from here with Usman. This makes us realize that Faiz is a traitor and he is not a police officer, and Regini's accomplice. In the meantime, Regini also frees his hands. However, in the midst of all this, Samir had already taken the truck in which Nargis was present and left from there. But in the midst, Tamina saves Samir and ends up getting shot herself. Faiz then lies his police headquarters that Tamina was killed in an encounter and it was Samir who killed her. Therefore, I need a few more police officers. Along with this, Faiz also says that wherever Samir is seen, he should be shot and killed on the spot. When Samir was leaving with the truck, Rejani was about to catch him, but Samir cleverly turns his vehicle around. After this, Faiz goes to his boss, whose name is Hakan Rabbani. But here, a secret agent from the police sends Commissioner Kaze a photo of Faiz with Hakan Rabbani. Now, there were quite a few police cars parked behind Samir's black trailer, but inside, Nargis was praying that her husband would rescue her and the other girls with him. Meanwhile, Samir speeds past the police cars, tricks Faiz, and reaches the police headquarters. There, Commander Kaze's special security takes control of Samir and the black truck. Just then, Officer Faiz arrives. He was about to shoot Samir when Commissioner Kaze intervenes and saves Samir, knowing that Samir was innocent and Faiz was a traitor to the country. So now, Samir had full freedom to beat Faiz, and he does just that. Afterward, the black trailer is opened, and after quite some time, Samir faints upon seeing Nargis there. 3 days later, Tamina's final rites are performed. Then, the taxi driver Usman, who had helped Samir so much in his own country, tells him he also wants to visit India, so he will definitely come for some time. Now, Faiz is tied up in a desolate place by the police officers, where 5 officers riddle him with bullets, and he meets his end right there. At the end of the movie, we see Samir and Nargis sitting together on an India-bound flight, and the fantastic movie concludes right here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch more content like this.